o'clock here in London, and everyone's on the street banging the pots and pans in celebration of the National Health Workers. They do it every Thursday at 8 o'clock.
Oh,
Coincidentally, not to applaud you or the show, but to applaud the hardworking people in the National Health.
well, we will applaud along
I think we should.
from the United States. We
I
thank
think
them
we
as
should.
well. Yeah.
They saved Boris Johnson, who apparently was at death's door last week, the Prime Minister. Yeah, so.
That's amazing,
Anyway.
the impact. Yeah, and we'll get into that. So I just like to welcome everybody who's joined us, whether on Zoom here or Facebook Live. My name is Mike Camoin. I'm the host of I'm the founding director of the Northeast Filmmakers Lab, and today I'm the host of Check the Gate, one-on-one with the Northeast Filmmakers Lab, which is hosted by the Capital Cinema Cultural Exchange, a nonprofit charitable organization that empowers emerging filmmakers to complete and present their works in an ever-changing media landscape, and boy, is it changing. We do this through a lab process, and thanks to our guests today, we are leveraging world-class expertise to help you complete your film as quick as possible and reach the intended audience. Special thanks to my co-producer, Eric Vollweiler, and Tammy Reese, our publicist. I'd like to thank today's sponsors, Price Chopper, Market 32. They're not just in your neighborhood, they're your neighbors. Albany Wine and Dine, Festival for the Arts, and Crew Me Up, building a digital community for filmmakers to connect, collaborate, create, crewmeup.com. Check the Gate, for those of you who don't know the term, comes from shooting on film. After a shot, before moving on, the DP will check the lens, make sure there's no impurities, and if it's good, the gate is good, then the show gets to move forward. So with that, I'd like to invite and welcome Elliot Grove, all the way from London, UK, the founder of the Raindance Film Festival, the British Independent Filmmaker Awards. Elliot, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us.
Well, it's my evening, and my pleasure. The pleasure's all mine, Mike. Thanks very much. It's great. I'm from Toronto originally, so I've been through Albany, where you are, upstate New York. My mom was in Corning for several years. She was a public health nurse there.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
Again, before we get started, I'm going to invite a few other folks here. If you would, folks that just joined, we're going to keep you muted, but you can leave your questions for us in the chat box and on Facebook. Elliot, before we get into the Raindance Film Festival, filmmaking, the books that you've written on filmmaking, budgeting, screenwriting, how are you, and how are things related to COVID-19 and its impact on your business?
Well, everything just shut down. We have a film school and we have a film festival. And of course, cinemas, as in America, are closed. Probably will not reopen in 2020, they're saying today, which means a film festival has to quickly think on its feet. In the film school itself, we've been doing an online master's program since 2012. So we're used to online delivery, but we also have a proper film school with labs and studios and equipment. And of course, it's very difficult to go to the film school, pick up a camera when the film school is closed. So we're trying to get everyone to work online. Every day at 1 o'clock, we do British time. That's, I think 7 o'clock in the morning your time. Mm-hmm. 8 o'clock in the morning your time. We do on Instagram, we get about 200 people every time. And then we developed a whole series of what we call lockdown sessions. They're 1 hour sessions. I just left one to come here with the lawyer talking about how you do contract law or writers' agreements and so on. And they're quite cheap. They're £8, about what, $12 for an hour tutorial with a leading professional. We make a little bit of money to keep the lights on because unlike most film festivals in Europe, we are totally self-funded. We are far too contemporary, Mike, to get the government funding. They don't get us. We're a little too far beyond the curve. So for almost 30 years, we exist on our own resources. And in terms of the city's very quiet. I live near the Heathrow flight path. Instead of a plane every 45 seconds, there's one or two every half hour, which is quite a difference in terms of the noise and the pollution and all that. But but hey, we're learning to deal with it and to learn with the sudden collapse of capitalism and sadly democracy all within the space of a few weeks. So I think it's an exciting time to be alive and a very exciting time to be a filmmaker, trying to figure out how to story this for better or worse, for richer or poorer.
Yeah, well said. You've written a few books on that might be really helpful to folks. One of them, low to no budget filmmaking. What should filmmakers be doing, thinking about right now during this pause period?
Well, it's a great time to learn new skills, of course. It's also a really good time to work on your story and to do a proof of concept. Even if you're using, I don't know, Lego bricks or something to teach yourself the grammar of directing, or writing and reworking on the script to get people online to do a table reading using exactly the same software as you're using, and other preparation you can do ahead of time. Most of the new filmmakers that I meet who make a film do not spend enough time in pre-production. They're so excited about doing it. They finally get the camera and they start shooting and they haven't worked it out. And of course, that's when you screw up. So I think this enforced, if you like, pre-production period is actually a bonus.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to read a quote. How to get a shot with, this was a response, I think, to your book, how to get a shot with what you have, not what you want. Can you talk a
Right.
little bit more about that?
Well, I've met many people, wannabe filmmakers, and we have hubs in Toronto, New York, LA, and over here in Berlin, Brussels, sort of getting everywhere. We're opening up in Tokyo and Beijing once this blows over. And I travel around all of these places and I meet lots of filmmakers who say, I want to make a movie. I say, oh, that's great. Tell me about it. And they tell me about it. And I say, that sounds really good. And then I say to them, well, what's your budget? And they'll say, well, it's $10 million. And I'll say, well, why is it $10 million? And they say, well, we want to get Harrison Ford. And I'm going, well, you have absolutely no chance of getting Harrison Ford. Or they'll say, I want to shoot it on the most expensive camera you can imagine. I'll say, why do you want to shoot on that when this very phone here has probably 20 years ago, the camera on this very phone was as good as anything you could rent or buy even from a broadcast studio. So people make excuses of why they can't make the film. They procrastinate. They don't have enough money. They don't have Harrison Ford. They don't have enough crew. When in actual fact, that's just procrastinating is a lack of confidence. I think if you want to make a film, you just go do it. A guy who worked with me the first 9 months of Raindance back in the early 90s
Mm-hmm.
had very little money, went and made a film. It was called A Fistful of Fingers, which which was like his film school. His name was Edgar Wright. And then he went on and did other stuff. Another guy I helped out a very little bit, who I knew when he was making his first film for £4,000, what's that, about $6,000, called The Following. And he just decided to do it. And he had a full-time job at the local pharmacy stacking shelves in the center of town. So he had to work Monday to Friday. Friday, I give him the key to my office in the center of town. And he would shoot Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. On the Monday morning, he'd give me the key and he went back to work. On the way to me on the Friday, he would pick up free equipment from the Film Society that he befriended at the local university. And he did that every weekend for 9 consecutive months, every weekend. And that finished film was called The Following, which was released everywhere, won lots of awards. And 18 months later, he remade it, but now with a $4 million budget, something called Memento.
Oh, well, that was him.
But both of those guys just did it, and they did it without what they wanted to have. They did it with what they actually physically had. In Chris's case, a 16 mil camera. He saved up some money to buy some rolls of film. In Edgar's case, he took a whole bunch of friends down to the West Country, to a friend who had an empty farmhouse for 2, 3 weeks, and they shot his first film there uh, with literally no money. Neither of those guys had money at all.
Hmm. Was Table 5 your first film?
It was, regrettably, yes, and probably my last as a director. We made that for about $500 on 35 millimeter using ends from the local production companies. We shot that in 9 days, which we call a week, because when you rent the call up to get the camera,
Mhm.
you rent it for a week, they pick it up Friday. So you've got it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You've got it for 9 days. So we shot 10 pages a day and returned equipment that Monday morning.
So the first time I heard about the Rain Dance Film Festival, I was in New York. I think it was 1996, 97 in Manhattan. And Dov Simmons is giving his A to Z class on filmmaking over a 2-day crash course. And he mentions the Rain Dance Film Festival. He says they're doing a really nice job. And I just remembered that, it was before everything was about Sundance here, but it was, he really, he liked what you were doing. And I think those were your early years at that time. What was sort of the reason for starting the Rain Dance Film Festival?
Well, I grew up on a farm outside Toronto. My parents were Amish, the horse and buggy people, and I was told never ever to go to the movie theater because the devil lived there, I was told. And here I am with you tonight doing the devil's work.
Yes.
Um, um, we moved in off the farm to Toronto, and I ended up going to art school. My post-secondary training was that of art. I broke my mummy's heart. She wanted me, a doctor, to be a professional. But I went to art school, so my 3-year post-secondary school graduation certificate proclaims me an expert, nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight, but I am, however, a qualified technician in something called cire perdu, lost wax casting, the ancient art of the Greeks. And with that in my pocket, I came over to London for the first time in the mid-70s, worked for a while at the BBC as a stagehand on such iconic shows as Monty Python and Doctor Who. And then I worked for about 4 months for a British sculptor named Sir Henry Moore. I don't know if you know that name, big monumental sculptures. And then I worked for 3 days with another British sculptor called Sir Anthony Caro, does the big slap steel thing. He died about 4 years ago. That's why I wear these, is because I got archived from too much light. I had that bad helmet when I was welding. Anyway, when I came back to Toronto for 9 years, I worked as a scenic painter in Toronto in the studios, painting the most awful movies you have ever imagined. Movies with words like slime or gore in the title. And if you watch these movies, they usually featured a lot of naked female chest and gobs of blood and a spaceship. I mean, just totally bad movies. And then I moved back to London in the early 90s, the mid 80s, was buying and fixing up houses in the center of London. And then the last big recession in 1991, it went bust. And it was after I went bust, I realized I really loved movies and I didn't know anyone. So I started training courses, bringing people like Dov Simmons over. And after a year, I thought, oh, I'd like to start a film festival. And I had no idea how to do it. This is not my area of expertise at all. So I rented a cinema. I got a variety product guide, and advice to anyone listening: read the trade papers. Hollywood Reporter, Variety. The British one is Screen International. There's The Wrap, which I just started reading, which is great. And of course, IndieWire, Film Threat. So you just sort of get an idea of what's going on. I bought a copy of that year's Variety, the big, thick one they did before the Cannes Film Festival. This was in May that year. And I circled 100 films that I liked the little 8-word synopsis on. I mean, I'm so naive. I can't believe I did this, telling you. And they had a fax number just days before email. So I made a one-page press release. I was totally broke, but I had enough money to send 100 international faxes, and 80 of them came. One of them, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp did not come. Neither did Leonardo DiCaprio. But if you look at IMDb.com, we had the first European screening of What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And then the festival sort of went up and down over the years. I kept the film school going. We started a MA degree in 2011. We're opening up in Dubai this year when this virus blows over for the 2 year. It's like a college program. We call it higher national degree. It's a British degree equivalent to your 2 years of college. And then we have the so-called open classes, which is why I can do this tonight because it's closed. We have about, groups of 50 to 100 people most nights of the weekend, writing, directing, virtual reality, producing, and so on. I don't know if I've answered your question or not, but that was a long-winded or short-winded, depending how well you knew me, of how I got going.
Outstanding, outstanding. And I think you also reference, so Dov really gives his nod to the Raindance Film Festival. You mentioned What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Then Quentin Tarantino shows up with what, Reservoir Dogs?
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, we had the first European screening of that at Raindance. That was in year 2, 1994. And then the other big one we had, I guess, was Blair Witch in, was that 99 or 2000? I always forget. I think it was 1999 was Blair Witch, which was insane because we had all the painting going on, which was manufactured a few months earlier at the Sundance Film Festival when Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, the two writer-directors of that, planted women in the audience, scantily clad, to faint at 3 key moments of the film. And because the cinema in Sundance has got no center aisle, these women in the middle had to be body surfed to the aisle and stretchered out. It was all bullshit, but by the time it opened in London, by the time it came to Raindance, people were afraid to see it because they thought they might faint in the cinema. It was totally manufactured.
I never heard that. Wow, that's quite a marketing ploy.
Yeah. Oh, that was brilliantly marketed. Those guys were brilliant at marketing, and they made that for next to nothing, about $30,000 as a showreel film, and then this marketing thing took off.
Yeah, it went gangbusters. A friend of mine whom gave me sort of my first break, John Pearson, was a part of that. Blair Witch.
Cool.
Hey, we've got some questions coming in here. Micah Khan asks, is there a vibe of movie you prefer to program?
One that tells a story. And it's got to be for Raindance, every festival is different. We tend to tell extreme stories, extreme situations, be it sexuality or ecology or racism, whatever, but it needs to be a story. And I don't care what your budget is, it could be 1 penny or a 10 million. We've turned down many $10 million films because they had the saccharine flavored, if you like, Hollywood so-called stories that just bore you to tears.
Another question comes in from Daniel Smith. Any tips in regards to securing sponsorship for film festivals during this era of the coronavirus? Perhaps you could talk about how you traditionally fund Raindance and then how you're going to be doing it moving forward.
Sure. I mean, we lost a major sponsor 3 years ago, Lexus, the Toyota car, because we got them through the Weinstein Company, and they called us from the States wanting to know if they could have a screening of their film competition films at Raindance in London. We said, of course, we got a bit of money. And then we started dealing directly with Europe, Lexus cars. And then, of course, 2 years ago, when the Weinstein sex scandal hit, the head honchos in Japan were horrified that they had failed to do their due diligence. So they canceled everything to do with film because they felt that their misjudgment had brought disrepute on themselves personally and upon the brand. So we lost that. But basically, to answer this question, I could talk for hours on this. I think whenever you ask anyone for money, Mike, and you were talking before we came on about your drone business, that you're doing drones and producing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you've got something that you need to offer people. You've got something unique. Your festival has to have something unique. Is it a unique type of film? Is it short films, documentaries, LGBTQ? What is it? I don't care. But if you've got some content that's unique, just like you with your drone, you have to tell people about it and you have to explain to them what service that you can provide that brand or that customer in your case. And when they are interested, then you negotiate, in your case, an hourly rate or a flat rate. In the case of a festival, what level of sponsorship, headline sponsor, or is it main partnership or whatever. So that's basically what I've learned the hard way. I have not been good at getting sponsorship over the years. But we've had some wonderful sponsors as well. We're working right now with Panasonic with the Lumix camera, which is pretty amazing and awesome camera. And I'm not just saying that because they sponsor us. I'm saying that because the camera everyone I know says is good. And we are in very, very late conversation with Stella, the beer, which they have just postponed until 2021 because all of their marketing money in America and Europe, they're putting as donations into the COVID-19 help fund or whatever. So it is a weird time right now, and you have to be nimble, and you have to look at this not as a terrible disaster, which it is, of course, but you have to look at it as a source of inspiration. And the people, Mike, that are going to survive in any business, but especially in the creative industries, are those who can innovate.
Yes.
Those who can see the challenge and deliver premium content at the right price. My parents were farmers. It was all the same. You want to grow carrots, you better know how much it costs to grow the carrot and how much the person driving by the laneway is going to pay for a bunch of carrots. You could underprice or overprice. Equally damaging. Anyway.
Just to follow up with that, who are the typical sponsors that want to get involved, and why do they get involved either in a film or a film festival?
Well, it depends where your film festival is located. Of course, I'm very lucky to be in the center of London, which is a tourist destination. So I look for hospitality and travel partners. That's one source of sponsorship. I think anyone, anywhere, can look at an equipment sponsor, be it software or hardware, computer or cameras. I think that would be very good. And then again, depending on your social media, your reach, and whether or not you've got someone like Eric or Tammy working with you to expand your message, you could look at some of the consumer brands, clothing, beauty products, beverages, all that kind of stuff. So I would tend to divide the potential sponsorships for a festival into those three main categories.
I'm going to hop over to Facebook and see what questions we have here. What's your, we've got a couple.
Cool.
Do you see Rain Dance New York in the near future?
We have had a hub in Rain Dance New York for about 10 years, but it has been very quiet the last 2 years because the guy running it, sadly, has been so busy with his theater work and his day job. So he was triple hitting. And it is a lot of work, but we are always looking for new partners in any city.
Excellent. So what if Albany wanted to invite Rain Dance here? What do you need? What are the three things you need?
We need someone to answer the phone and the emails. We need someone with who can be the spokesperson, the local spokesperson, and then we need someone who, if they don't have connections with the industry, knows how to make connections. Because all Rain Dance is a series of these hubs, or a series of filmmaking communities, and we trade with each other. We trade goods, but not of money. We trade goods of ideas and inspiration. So we will often have a Zoom meeting with people. We had one, what's the day, on Monday night this week. It was probably about 30 people, but we had somebody from Berlin, someone from Barcelona, a couple of people from the States and London, whatever, and just basically kicking the can, talking, just sort of feeling each other out. Just what do you got? What do you got? Sort of like that. And it's so inspiring and it's so great. And people who do that seem to get a lot out of it. And I think too, when you start a festival or start a group, as you have done here, Mike, I think it is important to understand why you're doing it. Some people have false expectations of running a Rain Dance hub in, let's say, New York or Albany for that matter. because they may seek, and I know this is you might, they may seek fame and fortune.
Yes,
Uh,
it's all over. It's right here.
Neither of these things come easily, and when they do come, they usually come at a horrific price. I was doing an Instagram talk with a guy in Belgium today, who's got 300,000 followers on YouTube. He now makes enough money to pay himself plus four assistants. They're making short training videos on the internet on YouTube. And I said, well, how did you start? He's 26. He started when he was 16, wanted to become a YouTuber, and at 18, with his best friend from high school, for 6 months, put a YouTube video 10 minutes long every single day on the internet. And
Well,
some of them were so terrible, but he learned how to do it. Then he went away for a couple of years, and then 3 years ago, got back with his high school buddy, and they went full time. And now they have 300,000 followers, and with the ad revenue, it supports 5 salaries. But there was 10 years, 10 whole years in no man's land, eating bugs.
wow. So there's sort of a myth about film festival submissions and submission fees. I once learned that that the films that Sundance takes, they actually are invited,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they don't charge a fee. Do you do waivers like that, or how does it work at Raindance?
There are some returning alumni, like when if Edgar Wright called me up and said, I've got a new film, am I going to charge someone like that or Chris Nolan? Of course not. So we do that. But we'll get two kinds of emails of people asking for fee waivers. We'll get someone from Iraq or Iran or Somalia
Yes,
saying,
we get those too.
I can't I can't get you the money. I can't get you the money. So of course we give them a fee waiver, but then sometimes we don't get the film because they've been executed or their films have been destroyed or whatever. And then there's people who are living in Albany or New York or Boston who said, you know, I've spent every single penny in my film, I'm totally broke. And then we do a Skype call and they're sitting in their parents, 5-bedroom house with a swimming pool. Could we have a fee waiver? We say, no, I'm sorry. So the third option is when you get a fee waiver, your film goes to, say, Raindance, someone's got to watch it. Now, how we work at Raindance, if you've paid the fee, our professional programmers, who between them have something like 45 years worth of experience, will look at your film. But if you haven't paid, the programmer who looks at it first is the unpaid intern. So my response is, do you want a professional view, eyeballs on your film, or do you want an intern who's just sort of camping out at Raindance for a few weeks? It's
So
that simple.
you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. Yeah, I think so. I think we are unusual for most film festivals. The 90 films we had last year, we invited maybe 3. The rest all came from open submissions. So that's what makes our festival different than most. And the other thing, we do watch every single one. Last year we had almost 11,000 submissions from 119 countries. We had 14 programmers who started working a month before last year's festival for this year's festival. So our year is 13 months because it takes us that long to go through all the submissions.
Wow. Wow. So what's going to happen to, you're entering your 28th year?
Yeah.
What's going to happen in terms of, it's in October?
End of October, yes. We used to be end of September, but before Christmas, we thought, let's do it end of October. And then this whole thing, we thought for the first 2 weeks, a month ago, we thought, oh, that's good, it'll be over by then. I don't think this thing is going to be over in London or Paris or Albany or New York anytime soon. If you saw the governor of California yesterday saying no sports, no baseball in 2020. I don't know if you saw that, but it's like
No.
no one thinks any public gathering of any description is going to happen at all. And things like nightclubs and theaters and cinemas are the last to be opened up. And the new normal is going to be nothing like what we experienced before. Now, where that leaves a film festival, and you have to ask yourself what a film festival is, it is films Well, watching films online, as we're doing now, is relatively easy. The Netflix, the Amazon, and so on. So to put a film festival online is pretty easy. In fact, we did that for 3 years in 2006 and 8. We were probably the first in the world to do what's called date screening, when you could come to come to the cinema to see the film or watch it online within a half-hour window. It would start and you play at home. And we've got some good partners, potential partners here we're talking to in the next week or so. We had a big meeting a week ago today with a very important partner here we may go with. But the other thing that a festival is industry panels and discussions.
That's my
Well, I
favorite
guess,
part. That's why I started the Filmmakers Lab. This is the favorite part that I love to
yeah,
talk
so I
shop.
guess, so normally instead of having it in a theater screen
Mm.
or at a lecture hall, you could do it like this. You could still pretty much do that. So those two things are good. But the thing that is really tough is how us human beings like body contact. We like being together in a room. We like schmoozing. We like sharing a drink and all that.
Yeah.
That's the tricky bit. And I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet, but we're working on it.
Great, great. I know you're doing some stuff with virtual reality, so you may be the best to pull something new off that could really
Yeah,
benefit the industry.
we've had for 5 years, we've had a gallery of immersive stories with all the different types of headgear and gaming and all that. But the problem with that is you physically need to be there. You see, the computer is so heavy, the software is so heavy.
Mm.
Some of it I could send to you on an email. You could spend an hour downloading it, put on your headgear if you've got headgear and watch it. Some of the most basic stuff. But most of this, you need some pretty serious computer stuff. So I think that might be the one thing you would think. It's totally digital, but that might be the one thing that suffers the most with the closure of public spaces. It's really weird. I don't know.
Oh,
I
wow.
really don't know.
Good point. I'm looking at the clock. It's 3:30 here, or 3:33. I think it's 8:33 there, and you've got to move on to another meeting.
I do have to move on.
All right. So, Elliot, can't thank you enough for spending time with us. How can people get in touch with you or your school?
I'm going to put my, our website is raindance.org, and we're doing something called Raindance Remote, which you'll see on the homepage. Also details of the festival and the school, and lots of, I see that Micah asked, yeah, lots of TV executives come, and lots of filmmaking networks, and lots of, yes, all your questions, Micah. We do have a pretty good reputation in Europe as being the biggest and the best independent film festival for the sorts of reasons that mean that we can answer yes to Micah's questions, long-winded. I'll give you my personal email that you can share. I'm just putting it in the chat box here.
Fantastic.
We're not that big. I may not get back to you right away, and if I fail to get back, or if anyone watching sends me an email and I fail to get back, please just resend the email. Bizarrely, this lockdown has made me busier than I think I've been for many years, because I'm doing a lot of stuff like this with you, which is fun, of course.
I hear you, and totally appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing your contact information. I just ask everybody to be respectful and be professional.
You Americans are not known for respectfulness, okay? And I'm living in Europe, and I'm a Canadian, so I'm very used to disrespectful Americans. You will not bother me at all. Just shoot from the hip. I don't care.
Well, it's one of the things that we like about our Northeast Filmmakers Lab is that we're kind of set apart. We've got a great atmosphere when we're together. Over a 3-day period, we get filmmakers helping filmmakers. And this comes out of my experience at the Rotterdam Film Festival and Film Lab, where I experienced what it's like when somebody buys the food and somebody else buys the drink, and then people start giving to each other, and all kinds of things can happen. And then people even make long-term friendships out of it. That I think is just wonderful. So we hope
Rotterdam's a fantastic festival.
yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
They know how to do it, and so do you.
Hey,
Um,
by the way, we were planning to do a Rain Dance Day at Venice Film Festival this year and a Venice Day at Rain Dance, but it looks like that's been kicked out the window with this pandemic. But if not, this year we will do it in 21, with to partner up with Venice. I think it's kind of cool if you've
that's very
ever been.
cool.
Mm.
I think I read today that Cannes and Venice may, because Cannes going to get bumped, they may join with them in some way. I don't know.
Oh, right.
So
But I don't think Venice is going to happen, and that's the beginning of September. I think health-wise, I think that's very, very unlikely.
yeah, it's all up in the air. Um, so I really appreciate you being with us, Elliot, and
Okay.
I want to thank. I just got a few closing words. You're welcome to hop off, Elliot. I know you got to run. I want to thank our sponsors, Price Chopper, Market 32, Albany Wine and Dine, Festival for the Arts, Crew Me Up. Visit them, crewmeup.com. In the coming weeks, we're going to have the Sundance Collab. Jessica from the Sundance Collab is going to come and talk about all the many things that are available right now here through Sundance on their website. We'll also have a panel at the end of April, Why Invest in the Arts? You'll hear from some movers and shakers here in the capital region, as well as actress Valerie Landsberg will be back with us on that panel. Next week, next Thursday, our guest will be Carol Dean from The Heart, and she'll be talking about fundraising, crowdfunding, and all the wonderful toys and books and platforms she has going at From the Heart, like we did it. So, everybody, be well, be healthy, look after each other. This is Mike Camoin for Check the Gate. Our gate is good. So let's move on, people. Thanks for joining.